Right now, thousands of people are overpaying for a TV by at least $1,000 or more, and they have absolutely no idea. They're buying based off of brand recognition from the 90s, falling for marketing terms that really don't mean anything, and trusting salespeople whose job it is to move the most expensive inventory. Meanwhile, the best TV deals of 2025 are hiding in plain sight from brands that most people just skip right past. So, before you become another overpaying statistic, I'm JD Prevost, and I'm here to show you which TVs are really worth your money. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the big dogs. Samsung has always kind of been the popular kid in school, but now they're also the smart one. Their new S95F OLED isn't just getting good reviews, it's getting best TV that you can buy kind of good reviews, which is insane because Samsung spent years being the kind of bright but never quite perfect brand. Part of that is due to Samsung adding their new superpower to their sets a few years ago. Samsung's new TVs don't just play games, they are gaming consoles. Xbox Game Pass, NVIDIA GeForce Now, built right in with Samsung's gaming hub. You have no PlayStation, no Xbox, no $500 graphics card is needed. Your TV is your gaming rig. And when I first tested this, I kind of expected it to suck in all honesty, but I was surprised at how well it worked. And obviously, your mileage is going to vary kind of depending on your internet connection as you are streaming these games. But even if you have like a pretty good internet connection, you're not really gonna see any problems. But if that $3,300 S95F price tag makes your wallet cry, then the S90F OLED or the QN90F Mini LED will give you most of that magic for way less money. Samsung has done a good job about figuring out how to trickle down a lot of their best tech without making their cheaper models feel like a punishment. All right, so moving on from Samsung, I'm gonna tell you something that might mess with your head. LG makes OLED panels that go in just about every other brand's TVs. Sony OLED, that's an LG panel with Sony's brain. Some Samsung models, LG panels. So when LG makes their own TVs, they literally get the first pick of the best panels because they own the factory. Their C5 series is getting nearly perfect scores everywhere. And here's the secret that nobody is telling you. The LG B4 OLED gives you like 90% of the C5's performance for around $600 less. It's the same basic tech panel, just with a few less fancy features that most people will never really use anyway. But if you do want the premium, LG does offer the G5 with tandem OLED, which is kind of a new way for OLED displays to be made by LG. Now, it's gonna sound like marketing nonsense until you see it. And at the time of its release, it is the brightest OLED to have ever been made. And it's actually competing with the brightness of many mini LEDs on the market, which is kind of crazy. LG is basically playing with cheat codes at this point. Now, while LG has the chokehold on TV panel tech, Sony has a chokehold on TV enthusiasts, me included. You know, like the group of people who notice when the grass in a movie doesn't quite look like the right shade of green. I know, we're insufferable. TV nerds love Sony because of the processing and their color accuracy right out of the box. The Bravia 9 Mini LED costs more than some used cars, but if you've seen one calibrated properly, you might understand why. Every other TV looks like it just kind of has like an Instagram filter stuck over it in comparison. But here's Sony's dirty little secret. Their budget Bravia 7 Mini LED has the same processing magic as the flagship models, which gets you like 95% the way there with features and performance. It's kind of like getting a BMW engine and a Honda Civic. The Bravia 8 Mark II sits kind of in between those in the sweet spot. You get serious picture quality with a slightly more palatable price tag. Now, last year's A95L is also a great option, still expensive, but hey, when the brand has earned the love of the enthusiasts, they can get away with those higher price tags. Plus, if you own a PlayStation 5, the integration is really gonna be great. Obviously, it's Sony. So while the barrier to entry is higher than other brands, Sony is still very much the if you know, you know brand for color accuracy. Okay, so moving on to the mid-tier options. This is a story that I think everybody is sleeping on. 5 years ago, TCL was the good enough for a college dorm room brand. Now, their TCL QM6K series costs about $500 and has the specs that would be flagship territory in 2022. They're about 50% brighter than last year's model, which is a lot, with incredible color accuracy for that price, and that's competing with TVs that cost like twice as much. Now, I've tested TVs that cost around $2,500 that do not look as good as TCL's $1,300 high-end QM8K QD Mini LED. It's just insane what they're doing for that price. TCL didn't just disrupt the budget market, they nuked it from orbit, and they have started coming for the premium brands. In fact, now that I think about it, every TV that's in my house is a TCL except for the OLED that's in my living room. So that should tell you something. And another budget brand that's coming for the throats of those big brands, Hisense, is what happens when a company decides to build flagship TVs but just forgets to charge those flagship prices. Their U8QG Mini LED is getting called the successor of the 2024 TV of the year while costing less than mid-range models. But here's the catch though. Hisense lineup is kind of like playing Russian roulette. Their really good models are absolutely incredible, but their budget stuff can be kind of rough. So just make sure that you're doing your homework and you can get something that feels like you won the lottery and completely broke the system for the price. But if you're just out there just winging it, then you might end up with a TV that kind of makes your old one look good. Moving on to a few brands that you have probably never heard of, let's talk about Skyworth. They've been around for a while, but mostly just popular in China. They make really good TVs that will get you really close to those flagship performances without the kind of brand tax to go along with it. Their OLED and mini LED sets punch way above their weight class, but the trade-off is spending the next years kind of explaining to people what brand your TV is. But if you're okay with, kind of being that person, you can get a premium picture quality for hundreds less than the big names. And sometimes the best deals are hiding in plain sight. The other brand that you probably haven't heard of is Sansui, and they are doing something rare in 2025. They're making just simple TVs that work without trying to be smart about it. Their 4K models come with Roku or Android TV. Some of them will come with Dolby Vision, and they don't pretend to be more than they are. They're perfect for bedrooms, apartments, or really anyone that just wants a TV that they can take out of the box, put it on a stand, turn it on, and it's gonna be good to go. Now, to be fair, they're not the best in really any category. They're good, they're just not the best. But in a few years' time, I think we're gonna be talking about them a whole lot more. All right, so moving on from brands that you have probably never heard of to a brand that you just haven't heard from in a long time. Panasonic disappeared from US stores about a decade ago, like some kind of TV witness protection program. But now they are throwing haymakers. Their Z95A OLED is built for people who get legitimately angry when movie colors aren't exactly as the director intended. Because honestly, Panasonic TV fanboys make Sony TV fanboys seem casual. Now, finding one of these new Panasonic OLEDs still kind of feels like you're hunting for rare sneakers, but here's the thing. If you can actually track one down and you actually care about picture quality, Panasonic is making some of the best TVs that no one is really talking about. The Z95B that's coming soon looks even better, which is kind of scary for other big brands. Okay, so now let's talk about the bombshell that might mess with your head a little bit. Walmart bought Vizio for $2.3 billion. That is more money than most countries spend on their entire military. And starting next year, you can only buy Vizio TVs from Walmart and Sam's Club. That's it. Target? Nope. Amazon? Yeah, right. Best Buy? Go ahead and beat it, nerd. Vizio is becoming a Walmart house brand, kind of like Great Value Catch-Up, but for, televisions. But here's kind of the kicker with all of this stuff. This might actually be good news for your wallet. Walmart's scale could actually make these TVs cheaper than ever, but it means that one of the most popular TV brands in America just became a Walmart exclusive. So if you're thinking about buying a Vizio TV right now, just know that you're kind of buying into a brand that's going through sort of a corporate takeover. The TVs themselves, they're fine, but I'd keep an eye on how much data Walmart and Vizio want you to automatically share with them to kind of know what you're watching on your TV in the privacy of your own home. Now, if you don't mind sharing that information, then I guess that's fine. What you're really gonna enjoy is how affordable these TVs are about to become. Now, speaking of TVs that you'll typically see in these big box stores, I gotta mention things like Amazon Fire TVs and Roku TVs. Here's where stores really try to trick you. These Amazon and Roku names, they're not TV manufacturers, they're actually just software. That Fire TV could be made by TCL, they could be made by Toshiba, or really whoever Amazon found to build it cheapest that week. Roku TVs, they kind of work the same way. Insignia is Best Buy's house brand, and they're fine if you just sort of set your expectations correctly. Think of them sort of as like the store brand cereal of TVs. It gets the job done, saves you money, it's practical, but it also won't burn your house down. You also have brands like Toshiba, JVC, RCA, Sanyo, Hitachi, all these names. They used to mean something. Your parents probably had one, or if you're, old like me, you remember having many of these yourself. Toshiba used to make flat panels that everybody dreamed about. JVC literally invented VHS, and RCA basically invented televisions altogether. Now, they're mostly just logos that got sold to kind of whoever was willing to pay the licensing fee. Buying a Toshiba TV today is kind of like ordering a gourmet burger and somebody taking the meat that you get from a gas station and kind of putting it in fancy wrapping. It might work fine for like a spare bedroom, but just, in 2025, don't expect the innovation these names used to represent. So, after all that, here's the big things that you need to know. The entire TV industry got flipped upside down in 2025, and most people haven't really noticed it yet. Brands that you have never heard of are making better TVs than the ones that you grew up with. TCL went from an afterthought to a legitimate threat, and Samsung figured out how to make OLED work in bright rooms, which is fantastic. And LG is sitting on technology that makes everything else look really old. Meanwhile, some of those trusted names from the past are just names now, and one of the biggest players just got bought by the same company that sells you your groceries. But if you want an actual cheat sheet just to make this whole thing easy, then here it is. If you want the absolute best of the best, then just get the Samsung S95F, the LG G5, or the Sony Bravia 9. If you want the best bang for your buck, the Hisense U8QG, TCL QM6K, or the LG B4 are going to be your best friends. If you want something great but unique, maybe get something like a Skyworth or a Panasonic Z95B whenever that drops. And if you're looking for simple and cheap, something like Sansui or a carefully chosen Fire TV model are really good options. And if you want to avoid regret altogether, then skip the zombie brands like Toshiba, JVC, and RCA, and kind of like that whole lot. And you got to remember, the TV you buy, it's not just a screen. It's movie nights, it's game sessions, and the background for everything that happens in your living room for kind of the next 5 years. The trick is to choose something that you'll still be happy with when the honeymoon phase eventually wears off. But I hope that all this helps whenever you're out there standing in a store trying to decide which TV to buy. Because honestly, TV shopping is stressful enough without having to decode all these brands and decide which ones are real and which ones are just gonna be marketing jargon. But at least now you have some actual information to work with. But if this video made the whole thing feel a little less overwhelming, then I'd appreciate a like on this video, and subscribe if you want more of these deep dives that cut through all of the marketing nonsense. And I'm really interested to know what you're leaning towards buying, or if you now are completely rethinking all of your TV plans. I do read every comment, and honestly, hearing people's experiences kind of helps me figure out what to cover next. So if you have any ideas, go ahead and throw them down in the comments. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.